Hello everybody, and welcome to our next lesson on vocabulary from The Great Gatsby. These terms are coming from chapters 4 through 6. Okay, so we're taking a look at the first 7 terms, and as you're glancing at them, this word is a noun that means celebration and joy, the kind of behavior that you might have seen at the beginning stages of a party at Gatsby's house. It's marked by exultation, lively and triumphant joy. However, we all know that very soon, after drinking a lot of alcohol, most of the partygoers wind up experiencing a great deal of conflict. There is a character named Owl Eyes. We don't really get his full name, but he runs into Jordan and Nick while he's perusing the books in Gatsby's library. He's trying to figure out whether or not those books are counterfeit, which would be made in imitation, a fake. He winds up calling Gatsby a regular Belasco. Belasco was a very famous theater producer, and he was known for his realistic sets, even though they were still sets. Of course, Owl Eyes finds out that the books are real, that they're not just cardboard. The pages haven't been opened, though, but nonetheless, at least they are real. At the midpoint of the book, in Chapter 5, Gatsby is eagerly awaiting Daisy's arrival, and he believes that she is not just late or dilatory, but eventually he starts to think that she's not coming at all. When someone is dilatory, this is an adjective that means slow or tardy or late. It's basically his nerves that are getting the best of him. If you've ever heard of someone who seems to have many wrinkles on his face, or a surface that has lots of folds in it, we could call that corrugated. So corrugated would be to wrinkle, corrugate, to wrinkle, or to have wrinkles, if you want to use it as an adjective, corrugated surface. To wrinkle as the skin or face. It's a corrugated surface if it has a lot of folds in it. Anybody who is a frequenter or a resident of a place, you could call them a denizen. So a denizen is a resident or one who frequents a certain place. For example, let's take Meyer Wolfsheim. He could be considered a denizen of the underworld. Most of the things that he talks about are all unsavory. Another word that deals with a person is debauché. A debauché is a person who is addicted to indulgence. You could probably call many of the people who go to his parties debauchés. A person addicted to excess. To indulgence and luxury. And then lastly, when something is disconcerting, it is upsetting, it is perplexing, it is confusing. Nick definitely finds it disconcerting that Daisy doesn't do anything about the affair that Tom seems to be having with Myrtle. In Chapter 1, if we go back, he wishes that she would just take her baby and rush out of there and admit what's going on. He finds it disconcerting that she knows about it and does nothing. Okay, here's our next bunch of terms. And if you're feeling really down in the dumps and you're feeling as if you've been struggling a lot, we might use the idea that you're feeling harrowed. Someone that's feeling harrowed, you've caused distress to that person. Maybe hanging around with all these people in the fast lane is going to leave Nick harrowed and hopeless to a certain degree. If you want to use a word That means you're out to get somebody's attention, or you want to be the focus of attention, and you do it in such a way that is very vulgar. You could call that meretricious, attracting attention in a vulgar manner. Gaudy. Showy. And since we're on gaudy and showy, I guess we can take a look at gaudiness, which is right here too. When something is gaudy, it is too flashy. It's showing off in a tasteless way. Flashy, tacky. You know, sometimes people will talk about Gatsby's pink suits, or the fact that he has a cream-colored car with a green interior just because he can. It's a little bit too over the top. Be careful when somebody tries to ingratiate themselves to you. That doesn't necessarily mean that they're necessarily being honest about it. To ingratiate is to bring oneself into the favor of others. Brown noses often do this. People who are sycophants. They're being obsequious, right? They're just trying to ingratiate themselves into somebody's good graces. A word for downright evil would be insidious. Sometimes it means intending to do evil or harm. You might go back and think about Gene Forrester in a separate piece in his Jouncing of the Limb. It may not have been an insidious action. It may not have been an intention to cause evil. I should have put the word cause there. Intention to cause evil. Treachery. Treacherous. Insidious is evil, right? He may not have had any intent there. If there's something about Gatsby that Nick calls laudable, he's saying there's something about him that's praiseworthy. There's something about him that is commendable. And then the first word at the top that I didn't get to is a great word. A euphemism is when you use a sort of milder term to express something that might not be so nice. For example, people don't want to be referred to as housewives. A euphemism for that could be domestic engineer. You may not want to be called, say somebody croaked or died. Instead, we use the euphemism of passing on. So euphemism is a mild word, a milder word, used in place of another. So, for example, you might not want to call him a garbage man. You might want to call him a maintenance supervisor. You know, that's a little bit better. That's less offensive and less blunt. Okay, in the last three here, if you show no signs of remorse or sorrow, that means you're showing no vestige, no visible trace. No proof. Okay, he showed no vestige of any remorse for the fact that he's been philandering all over. If he's been having all these affairs, he shows no sense or visible trace or remnant, vestige of remorse or regret. If you know the word meticulous, and we've done that word before, punctilious is another word for that. So it would be showing great attention to detail. If you're punctilious about your clothing, you could say that you're punctilious, you're meticulous. And then the last word here means, turgid means excessively ornate. Think about a lot of the possessions that Gatsby owns. They're somewhat turgid. They're very showy, very ornate, very complex. Well, I don't know, complex may not work for Gatsby, but turgid means excessive. Okay, and that's our next group of words.